Welcome to the Blind Android Users channel. This is your source for everything Android, tutorials and demos, all from a blindness perspective. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this.
Hello and welcome to episode 79 of the Blind Android Users podcast. I'm Ed Green and I'm joined today by my co-host Warren Carr, and we are coming to you on Saturday the 11th of June 2022. It's a really busy show this week, folks, and it'll be a great one. We have our usual announcement section, and then I'm absolutely delighted to say that we're joined by Kim and Chris Nova from Mystic Access to talk about their new book on Android. We'll then talk about the new features in Android 13 Beta 3. We have Warren's highlights from Talkback, and we return to our My Android Journey segment this week, and we are joined by Amanda Hall. Well, folks, it's great to be here. Warren, how are you?
Great, Ed. Thank you so much. It's another beautiful day, and I'm glad to be here. We're kind of getting out of the rain. It's been raining here. I can't believe this spring that we've had. We've never had such a spring here in central Washington, and it's just been absolutely wet. And today, though, it seems like we're having some nice skies. And so in and out clouds, and who knows, maybe toward evening, we may have another rain. But for now, though, I'm looking forward to getting this done and going out there and basking in the sun.
Sounds lovely. Chris and Kim, how are you guys?
Terrific. It's a beautiful day in Western New York. We didn't think spring was ever going to come here. We had, how much was it? 20 inches of
20
snow
inches of snow over
one night earlier this winter, and that was a shock for this New York transplant coming from the southeastern U.S. To here was quite a bit of a shock having that much snow in one night. But we are so glad that spring is finally here. We've got a day in the 70s now, and it's beautiful and sunny, and we are super excited about it. We are ready for some really nice temperatures coming up.
Newark, New Jersey. First
Yeah, New York.
shut. I remember it well. Closing of Newark Airport.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Your white cane's not going to do well in 20 inches of snow, to be fair.
No,
You're gonna
it isn't
struggle.
helpful at all.
No,
We just
no.
bought a
in that
snowblower
case,
the weekend before, so we were real happy about that.
you just want to stay home, and that's what I do. We had a lot of snow this year too, and I just stayed home. We
Yeah.
had like over 3 feet of snow. I just stayed home.
It's nice when your commute is about 300 feet, going
Exactly.
from a bedroom
Downstairs.
to an office. Or
Thank you. That's
That
the kind
helps.
I like.
That definitely helps. We had a tube strike this week, underground strike, so I had to get the buses in, and then I got an absolute chaos bus home. I couldn't get on one after work, so I had to go to a bar to let it all calm down. And even at 11 o'clock at night, it was still an absolute chaos bus. I barely got
Wow.
it. Yeah. Oh well. Amanda, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's nice weather here as well. Actually, it's been lush and warm and sunny and that today, so I'm pleased about that because I prefer the warmth in the summer to the winter, really. So yeah, I'm good.
Excellent. And it's all good here in London as well. Similar weather to you. Busy weekend last weekend. I wasn't on, but we had the Platinum Jubilee, obviously, and slightly randomly, I got an honour in the Queen's birthday honours list. Absolutely
Oh,
wild.
wow.
Oh wow.
I got
Great.
what we call an
Cool.
OBE, but quite amazing, but somewhat surprising.
Now, Amanda, we usually give Fiona a hard time for being a British girl. I think since you're in here today, I think you're sitting in here for her. So, we may give you a little bit of a hard time on her behalf. How about
All
that?
right. Sounds interesting.
The main objective of this, though, is to pick on Warren, just so everyone's aware. That's what we do. So Austin's not here this week. So Warren, do you want to take us through any announcements that we have?
So for announcements, we do have one important announcement. You guys, if you're familiar or if you remember the Audible Vision, something we gave out codes for, I think, when was that? Maybe about 3 months or so ago. I think that was back in March. And the developer of Audible Vision would like you guys to kind of participate in a survey and tell him what you think. And so we're going to be putting that URL in our show notes so you guys can find that and fill out that survey. And we will also be publishing that survey URL on both our Telegram and email groups. And that will be the announcement that we have for today.
Thanks very much, Warren. Now we turn to our spotlight section, and I'm absolutely delighted that Chris and Kim from Mystic Access have joined us because they've just written a book on Android. And I know that we try and do a lot of audio stuff, but we have deafblind members of the community, and they always say, can we have some written materials? And we have people who aren't really audio learners. So it's fabulous that there's some up-to-date written material around. Before we dive into the book, though, Kim and Chris, welcome again. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about you guys and a little bit about Mystic Access and what you're about?
Sure. Thanks for having us, you guys. It's such a pleasure to be here. We love the podcast. Really been enjoying catching up on some episodes this morning, and it's just been lots of fun. So, Mystic Access, ironically enough, is a company that does audio documentation. So the fact that we even got into writing books in the first place is kind of a fun thing. But audio it was initially our focus and our primary focus. In terms of Mystic Access, it still really is where we're primarily focused. We do audio on everything from Victor Reader streams from HumanWare to Braille displays. We've done the HumanWare Braille Note line of products, done all kinds of different things, Dolphin products from Dolphin Computer Access. So we've done lots of different audio, both with the companies, in collaboration with companies, and on our own for various products, such as the Amazon Alexa products, things like that. So we've kind of we're kind of troubadours in the case of a lot of the audio that we do, because it's stuff that most people might not necessarily think would deserve or desire an audio tutorial or audio documentation. So we've done things like Braille displays that have had no audio components to them and yet have made successful audio documentation from them. And this all stemmed initially from Chris's podcast, which has been around for a long time, hasn't it?
Yes, it actually, the whole idea behind Mystic Access came from the old Braille and Speak, and I was able to learn that on my own with audio documentation that was read by Fred Gassoni years and years and years
Way
ago.
back in the day.
Yes. So that's how Mystic Access really became a thing, because I was thinking, how do we get this working? How can we, bring back audio? Back in the 90s, a lot of the AT companies did audio tutorials for their products, and then it just fell beyond the wayside. And we kind of understand why, because it's not an easy thing to do, to edit it and to get it nicely packaged.
To make us sound like we're confident and competent and know everything there is to know, and look pretty effortless, and of course it's not effortless at all. So to make it seem that way can be a bit of a process there. So we love what we do. That's kind of our primary thing. Like you guys, we have a podcast, and we enjoy talking about all kinds of assistive technology and mainstream technology too. We're both totally blind, and we also got married last year, so that kind of fit into the podcast.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw that on your announcement list.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
It was very fun. It was kind of something. We didn't want to bore people out of their minds by talking wedding, and all these things. But it actually did bring up some good topics, because I moved 700 miles to a new state. And, things come out of those processes that can sometimes inform topics on podcasts. So we have a lot of fun. It's the Mystic Access podcast, and it comes out every other Tuesday. So if people want to check it out, they can.
Brilliant. I do miss my Braille and Speak Classic. I got it in 1989. So
I know. I miss mine too. It's hidden somewhere.
I suspect we were all weaned on the same.
I suspect so. Yeah, my poor old 640. Yes. Yeah. Right. Exactly. That's the one I listen to too.
Yeah.
So here's what I've always wanted to ask, and I'm glad that you guys are here today. I've always wondered about the chosen name Mystic Access, and I'm thinking of mysticism, and I'm like, I want to ask them why or how they came about such a beautiful thing called Mystic Access. Who would tell us about the history or how you came about choosing Mystic Access?
Yeah, actually, that is a story that stems back into, or begins in the early 90s when we had bulletin board systems for those people
Ooh.
that remember calling into a computer using a modem. And it was way before the internet. So I ran a BBS or bulletin board called the Castle of Dreams. And I thought, well, I could resurrect that name, but it kind of sounds like something that might be a little X-rated or so, shall we say. So I, I wanted to keep it into the mysticism or magical aspect. So sitting around, Kim and I were just talking about, what will we call this fledgling company that we didn't even know we were going to even be a part of? And so I came up with Mystic for the magical aspect, and then Access for the accessibility aspect of it. And then we came up with the tagline where the magic is in learning. So that's kind of how the whole thing started. And I would sit on Mystic Access for about 2 years. I put a couple tutorials out, and then I asked Kim to join me and create a tutorial for the Victor Reader Stream. And we launched that on, I think it was May 15th of 2015. And it's been, a road ever since then. So
Some up, some down, some sideways, but it's definitely been a road and a
Yeah.
journey and tremendous fun. I mean, we have met so many people. We never dreamed that this would ultimately become our gig, and here we are. So it's a lot of fun.
And what's your guys' backstory, Chris? I know you were tech support at GW, weren't you? But GW Micro. But yeah, what can you tell us a bit about yourselves personally?
Yeah, I started out working for an assistive technology center in Buffalo, New York. And then I would move on to Sendero Group. And then once I hit
Uh-huh.
Sendero Group, when I left them, that's when Mystic Access really became a thing. And while Mystic Access was growing or getting, its foot in the ground, I did work with GW Micro / AI Squared, VFO, Vispero, whatever it turned into. And then in 2016, I left the tech support with Vispero, and Kim and I have just been, pushing stuff out and making Mystic Access work.
I really like history, so I always like all that background stuff about how things got started. And I'm such a historian. Besides the fact that I am the Android evangelist, it's also beautiful that I love history. So thank you so much. Now I know where that mysticism came from. Mystic Access. Guys, check them out. A beautiful place.
What about you, Kim? What's your backstory?
Ironically, I do not have an assistive technology background. I used some assistive technology, of course. My beautiful Braille and Speak 640 that I loved ever so much was kind of my real foray into becoming obsessive about my assistive tech. I've always been total, so I've always used assistive technology. So that was always something that was part of my life, but I never dreamed it would become part of my career. I was a life coach for many years prior to the Mystic Access foray. And this wasn't my thing. I was someone who I went to public school. I didn't have a lot of blind friends. I mean, I had a few, but I was like, I don't know if I can teach this stuff. I might feel like a bit of an imposter, trying to figure out how to teach this type of information. But I had done a lot of writing and a lot of teaching and things in my coaching work for several years prior to Mystic's creation. So ultimately, I kind of worked my way into it and learned how to teach from a technical perspective. And it was a huge learning curve, but it was tremendously fun. I'm always someone who's really enjoyed the interaction piece. I have a psychology background as well. So, between those things, I thought, between my coaching and my psych background, maybe I can actually add to this little journey in some way for Mystic Access and kind of know about the emotional hangups that people can experience when they're trying to learn their technology. So that is a big part of what we attempt to help with, and if not dispel, at least kind of turn it down a little bit so people don't feel completely stressed out when they're trying to use their tech or learn their tech. So that piece is important to me based on my background. I have a music degree as well, so I'm a musician and a singer, and it's just all stuff that I really enjoy, and I always wanted to write. So the fact that, now here we are talking about technology and books and technical writing is quite a thrill. So it's been a real journey for sure for me.
That approach, I think, is particularly noticeable. I think I've got 2 or 3 of your tutorials, and the fact that you don't want to, you want to start at a, use a pun, accessible level without stressing people
Yeah.
out. Without wanting to say which approach is better. If you compare Mystic Access to something like Access Technology Institute, it's different, isn't it? Like you've got different
Yeah.
teaching styles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely.
That absolutely comes across. I think it's very clear that you've been able to adopt the approach you want to adopt.
Yeah, I think so. We always try to approach each of them starting with the foundational concepts and kind of working our way up. It makes sense to us. And of course, people have different teaching strategies, and that will work for other learners. And if they can get something from both, that's fantastic. Or if they want to pick what works for them, that's great. That's why we've got choice, and that's why we've got lots of options in the community, which is fantastic.
Completely. Let's move on to talk a little bit about the book then. So can you sort of introduce the book to us and tell us what you've sought to cover, who you think it's aimed at?
Sure. Well, I think a lot of it is aimed at, for one thing, the person who is confused about Android and its accessibility in general. So you guys help a lot with that too, in terms of dispelling some of those questions that people may have. Like, well, I've heard that it's really complicated, or I've heard that it's really inaccessible, and I've heard this or that or the next thing about Android. And of course, those of us sitting in this room know that Android is a fantastic either alternative to or your main daily driver. And so that's how we wanted to approach the book, is as first saying, hey, this is accessible. This is an option for you. And this could potentially be the thing you use every day for your phone, for your news, for your weather, for all these daily tasks that we want to get done easily and efficiently. This is an option for you. This is something that could become your friend in the course of learning to use it. And we wanted people to know that it's every bit as powerful, and in many ways much more powerful, especially in terms of customization, than other competitors out there in the marketplace.
Especially Windows Phone. No, just a joke.
Yeah.
We won't take Windows Phone as a
Yeah,
serious
right,
competitor in the
right.
marketplace.
Come on, Ed. Don't mess up with my Windows Phone.
I've got a Windows Phone too. I've got one running Windows Phone 8, some sort of piece of junk Nokia that.
I didn't know you could still get Windows phones now.
You can't, I don't think, Amanda. No, I think
Yeah, I
right.
think they're
died.
done.
I think
I don't know if
died.
they'd even work
I was
anymore.
going to say, would
No,
they
it
work?
probably doesn't. Probably doesn't. Well, if it ever worked.
Well, there's that.
Oh, brilliant.
Okay.
So what can you tell us a bit about the book and the structure and sort of what you cover? With it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we kind of start out by talking about the things you want to keep in mind before you even start. So there's that piece about accessibility that I was just speaking of. What can you do with it? Can you customize it? Oh, yes. I mean, that's one of the best pieces, my personal opinion about Android, how much customization you can do to it. But we also tell people that, you don't have to. It's not something you have to do. You don't have to go in and do tons of customization. You can take it out of the box and begin using it successfully. But we talk about stock Android. We talk about things you need to know before you pick which brand of phone or tablet you want. We talk about the differences between the phones and tablets, obviously protecting your device, caring for it, things like that. So it really starts out at the person or with the person who is making that considered purchase and saying, is this something I even want, or why do I want it? So we kind of begin there, and then we dive into the setup process. We talk about various aspects of the phone and parts of the phone, the dock and navigation bar, and, all these different things. And I think one of the interesting things that we did in the course of the book, and Chris can speak to this, is that we used 2 different phones throughout the course of the book, because obviously we have differences between our Pixel phones, for instance, and in our case, Samsung.
Yes, I used a Samsung A32 and Kim used a Pixel 3a during the creation of the book. And this gives it different perspectives and different ways that the 2 phones, while they're running Android, are completely different, or may be completely different, depending on the type of launcher that's installed, how the settings are configured, and all of that stuff. So we didn't want to say Pixel, because if somebody is using something that's not a Pixel, you didn't want them to think that the step-by-step to go to this setting is going to be the same on their specific phone. So we made sure that that was very clear in the writing process.
Yeah, that was huge. It was a big deal to us to make sure people had options and realized that they didn't have to pick just one thing. So, in the course of the setup process and having these discussions, we talk about various ways to configure your phone, settings. We can't go into all of it, obviously, because it's only a 3-volume book. And for anyone interested in the geekery behind books, or at least books for National Braille Press, 3 volumes is 54,000 words. So that's kind of what you're looking at for a 3-volume book. So you only have so much space in which to cover your material. So that can make it a little difficult too, because when you're doing the outline process, you have to make sure that the major highlight points are hit hard and are discussed very thoroughly. So it's kind of one of those things where you get to a certain point, it's like, what can I cut? Because obviously there's so much to discuss. So we try to put in as much as we could, obviously stressing accessibility settings, launchers. We talked not tons about launchers, but we talked a bit about launchers and showing people what one launcher might look like as opposed to another, web browsing, email, calendars, editing text, selecting, all these various pieces that go into the editing process, formatting. We touched a bit on those. We talked a bit about Braille support, although we left quite a bit of that to people to do their own research, because obviously that's an issue, at least currently, that is having some, we're dealing with things like Braille TTY and Braille Back and some of these third-party things that people are having to use to get Braille support. So we didn't talk as much about that as I perhaps would have liked, especially because, this is a company that promotes Braille and Braille literature, Braille reading. So that would have been nice, but we did talk, I think, quite successfully about the main other focuses that you might want to utilize a phone for, doing your events, doing your internet browsing, checking your email, writing and editing documents, things like that. So there's a lot of different pieces there, and hopefully we hit enough highlights to get new people interested, but also for those people who are struggling with particular topics, perhaps already own Android devices or have their devices collecting dust on their shelves, to be willing to pull them out and follow along a bit with what we're doing and see if it's helpful. And of course we did Play Store, downloading third-party apps, discussions of things like that, so that people would have the ability to see just how diverse Android could be and how much they could customize, again, going back to the customization, the product to their specific wants, needs.
One thing I did want to mention, and we have to thank you guys for this. So when we were writing the book, we decided to get a Motorola phone. And to our horror and dismay, we found out you couldn't use the multi-finger gestures. And oops.
We had this beautiful little phone. We loved it. We thought it was great up until the point where we tried to use multi-finger gestures and went, no.
So we didn't use that phone. We ended up getting the A32 that I previously mentioned, and so that we could have 2 phones that are running those 3-finger gestures. But that was a complicated thing to try and explain to people. Yeah, you can do them on this phone with this version of Android, but you can't do it on this phone that has the same version of Android. So that was that was fun.
And that's in the very beginning sections of the phone, because you don't want someone to read 4 chapters and realize, oh, I bought this Moto phone and I can't use multi-finger gestures. So, there's all these pieces that you have to keep in mind as you're writing to try and make everything seamless and make sense and be organized, and yet make sure that your reader knows everything they need to know as they're getting ready to begin this process, or make sure they know what their phone that they currently own is already capable of doing. So we're always talking about the different ways to do things, for sure.
They would previously have worked on your Moto phone on Talkback 9.0, and then Google stole them off all the non-Google and Samsung. Like, it's a good job I wasn't on when Warren interviewed Brian Kemner, because I would have got sacked from this podcast. Like, seriously, for real.
Here's the problem, and it's interesting, and it's a very important point that you brought about, the Motorola phones. And great as they are, and I love Moto G phones, especially the G line. I mean, affordable phones. However, the downfall has to do with the fact that these things don't often see those updates, and therefore, um, initially, we were supposed to have that multi-finger support with any Android phone running Android 11. However, something happened down the line, and it got reverted to where you have to have an Android device running Android 12. And frankly, I think we should have had it to where one could even use an Android 10, if you ask me. But I don't make the decisions, and unfortunately, that's what it is. So if anyone is looking for a phone that they want to enjoy, of course, nowadays we have to make sure that one gets one that is running at least Android 12 or has a surety that such a phone is going to be updated to Android 12. So you want to enjoy all the goodies that we have, especially as we're getting into new territories of Talkback. You want to make sure that your phone would be able to support Android 12 and support it very soon. Now, I know that writing books, Chris and Kim, writing books about Android is a monumental challenge. And I know you guys have explained some of the steps you had to go through and all of that. Was there any time that you found it like almost discouraging to write, or did you come across such a thing as saying, hey, we wish we didn't start writing this because it's so diverse in the Android land, or whatever of Android is so diverse? Did you run into any discouragements at all, or you are just good to go?
No, absolutely, we did. There were times when, and this is why it was so great that there were both of us there, because I'm the primary writer and he's the person who, when I have no brain cells left from long days, 12, 14-hour days, 16-hour days of writing, where I'll say, you just need to tell me what to say here, what the options are, or what I'm doing, and then I will make them look pretty, and write them down and make sure they're good to go. So I think the fact that there are two of us kind of doing Team Android, in the course of writing the book, that was really helpful, because when I was ready to just throw up my hands and say, "Oh, I can't do anymore," he would be there to encourage, or he would be out there to say, "Well, let's try this approach, or let's do this," or we had an outline to go by, because when you begin this process and you're ready to submit a book, or you're ready to submit the beginnings of your book, you always write a table of contents. That's one of the things you do as part of that process. And so you outline it first, and then the editor approves it, and then you can begin your writing process. So you're there with an outline. You have to have an outline kind of before you start, and that's for her benefit, and that's also for your benefit, so you don't completely lose your mind. So you've got some organization, a framework at least of organization prior to actually beginning the process. But like you said, Warren, you certainly get through some of these things, and as you're working through it, it just becomes, there's so much to say and there's so much to do, and you only have so much room to write, that it's like, what am I going to do here? How am I going to make this make sense? So yeah, absolutely. There were times, when you would just have to take a day off and not write anything because it was just too much, and you just had to sit there and breathe and regroup and do some completely different project. So it definitely takes a toll, especially with a 3-volume book. That's a pretty daunting process
That
to
is
begin
huge.
with. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a lot.
that's huge.
So, but it was great. I was quite pleased with the results and the feedback we've been getting. And I think that between all of these huge amount of topics that are covered, and anyone can go on the National Braille Press website and look at the table of contents there without purchasing, so you can kind of try before you buy, see what topics we cover. But there is a mammoth amount of material that is covered in 3 topics. So hopefully it's enough to address clearly and concisely what both beginners and people who already have Android and perhaps want a little more advanced knowledge would like to know. So whatever you're struggling with in terms of what you're learning, hopefully there's something there that you can kind of walk through the process with us, and we can get you at least on the path where you're ready to do your own exploration on your own. Because isn't that ultimately the point of the thing, is to get people curious and make them go, oh, okay, well, based on these steps, I can kind of get started and learn more, and then I'll find out more cool things on my own. So that part is really rewarding.
Let's talk about the pricing, because that's something that some people always think about.
Mhm.
What are we looking for here? I mean, in terms of price, so that people know when they go to purchase the book and things like that.
Sure, absolutely. It is. Let's pray my mic doesn't go out as I zoom back over to this website. Let's see, and I'll tell you exactly what it is. It is okay.
And let me just say, while she's
Yeah, go
getting
ahead.
she's getting the price, we write the book for National Braille Press. They are the ones that sell the book. It's their book. They own the copyright. We just write it, and a person would go to nbp.org and purchase the book from National Braille Press.
Okay, that
That's
makes all the
fascinating,
difference. Yeah,
actually, Chris.
I
Just
didn't know
again,
that.
while Chris is coming up with, while Kim's looking for the price. So what's the commissioning arrangement for that? Do you say, I've got an idea for Android? Do you want to give us some money for the IP and you own the copyright, or do they come to you going, we're a bit short on Android books, guys? Fancy writing one?
It's kind of the latter. They come to you and they say, we have this topic. Do you think you can do it? Do you want to do it? So you can either deny or accept the book, and you get paid per volume. So that's kind of how that works.
Yeah, they pay you a set price per volume of your work, and then they end up owning the copyright to it. So,
Yeah.
and of course, they accept ideas too. We wrote a book several years ago on the various delivery services like DoorDash, Grubhub, Postmates, some of those things, and we wrote it right before the pandemic. So, that worked out really
Yeah.
well for
Ideal.
everybody.
Ideal timing. Yeah, for sure.
So,
Well,
and that was an idea that I threw out to Cassell, and she accepted. So, it's kind of a
Great.
mixture of both, but they come
'Cause
up with the pricing structure that the public pays too.
Sure, because it's good they've broken their glass ceiling, because they used to have a law, didn't they, that only people called Anna were allowed to write books about smartphones.
She's a personal friend of mine, so I will tell her that. No, she'll love
Maybe
that.
there are two. There's Anna Dresner, who does the iPhone, and Anna Garza, who did the
Yes.
Android
Yeah, Anna
one.
Garza
So
did
it's
the
like,
original. Yeah, did the original
that's right.
Android book. Yes.
Only people called Anna are allowed to do it, apparently, but they've revised that.
Yeah,
policy.
they've raised that bit, and now there are more of us who are in there. Quite a lot of us are women too. There's a large stable of women writers for NBP now,
So
which
tell
is really
me,
cool.
you women are doing something that we guys are not doing, and that's absolutely beautiful, right? It goes to prove that women are more than capable, or sometimes better than us. Because I tell you, as the evangelist, I
Not that
can't
was
even write.
patronising at all, Warren. Just by the way, just calling you out. Well done.
So I'm actually really delighted to see that we have a lot of women writers, and most especially in our field of blindness related things. I think it's an important thing, and it encourages the young ladies out there. Young ladies, if you're out there, make people like Kim, Anna, and all of them your mentors in this way, so you can get to write more and more books for us to read. I'm
That was
excited about it.
Thank you. That was so intimidating to me when I first started in this industry too, and it was one of the things that kind of made me hesitate when Chris was like, "Hey, come do this audio with me for the Victor stream." And I'm like, "This is still such a man's world, What do I think?" I mean, I have no issue breaking glass ceilings, like none at all. I'm totally with that. But it was still like, "Oh, how many women can I count, who are doing things similar to what I'm doing?" So it is, after 7 years of doing it, now I feel very confident in doing what I do. So yeah, it's true. The gals need to stand up and say, "Hey, pay attention to me. I have valuable things to say too." So it's fun to be in that club.
And
Can
the funny
anyone
thing,
buy the book? Can it, like in the world, or do you have to live in America to buy it?
No, I don't think so. I think anybody can go to
But
NBP.
can you get it like? Can you get it like a digital version? to put on?
Absolutely.
Can.
Absolutely.
All right, that's
Yeah,
all right
it
then.
comes in BRF, so you can get it in BRF. It also comes in Word. There's also a DAISY version. It's not up on the site yet, but there's a little note that says you can pre-order to get the DAISY version when it's
Oh,
available.
cool. I think I would probably get a BRF one and stick it on me Brilliant, because
There you go.
I've used it a few months, but it sounds like there'd be like loads of, because it's good to have like the audio things, but it'd be good to have like a written guide as well, kind of thing. So
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why I love it so much, is because you've got kind of both worlds. You've got podcasts like this one that can help with the audio
Oh,
portion,
yeah.
and then you've got books that'll assist. And to answer the question It's $26 to $28.50. So depending on what format you can get hard copy Braille. That probably is only available here in the States. But then you've got the downloadable Braille, and you've got Word, and again, this Daisy that doesn't appear to be here yet, but it seems to be coming. So depending on what kind of format you want, you've got options.
Cool.
And is that text Daisy? Is it synthetic speech?
Nope, it's text. It's text. Yeah.
Yeah, Amanda, we can get them here. I buy from MBP quite a lot, and it's kind of instant download. So once you've paid,
All right, I don't think I've never bought a thingy. I don't think I've ever bought anything from them. So that's
from them.
that's
No, they're
good.
really good. Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff. I mean, depending on what you're interested in, there's tons of different, not just technology guides either. There's all kinds of different things. There's
I might
cookbooks
have to have
and
a look.
all sorts of things. Yeah. And then when you download them, they're sitting in your account. So you can always go back to your downloads page if you've lost something or misplaced it. You can re-download it.
Cool.
The link will be in the show notes, but it's www.nbp, that's November Bravo Papa.org. So
Cool.
There they are. And I should ask this, it's possibly a controversial question, but answer it honestly, and we promise to be gentle. What are you two guys' daily drivers in terms of phones?
We switch, actually. We play quite a lot in both worlds. Right now, I'm using my iPhone currently, but I'm thinking about switching back to my friendly little Pixel sitting over here on the desk very soon. And, every couple months, I'll be like, I think I'm going to switch out my SIM card, throw it in my other phone. So it really just kind of depends.
That's the beauty of SIM cards. You can just pull out your SIM card, and now the other phone is now your daily driver phone. And if you're using your Google contacts and all that, and you're synchronizing across the two platforms, you don't even have to worry about, am I going to miss this contact by moving this SIM card to the other phone, because everything's all synchronized. So that's the beauty of having synchronization. And where were we way back when we didn't have synchronization and we had to use our Braille and speak, go back to that, for the calendar, and if you lost that, you were done.
9600 baud and 14.4K.
Yes.
I remember actually on your Android Pie tutorial, you spent quite a lot of time talking about SIM cards, didn't you? And I sort of forgot. You don't really think of them. You sort of put them in your phone, and the beauty of them being able to take them in and out and swap them in and out, and what they do and what they don't do.
Yeah, that's what makes it so cool. And because of what we do, we talk about all these different technologies, whether it be Windows or Android or iOS and things. So it really pays. We have to stay on our toes and keep our foot in all these various worlds, as it were. So it's really helpful that we can do that and just take it out anytime we want and change things up and be able to use all these different things, be relatively conversant in all of them. So, but I do love my Android because of the customization. Chris will tell you, I drive him crazy because I will customize everything. And sometimes I'll start customizing before I know exactly what I'm doing. So I can break stuff relatively easily sometimes without thinking too hard about it. So then I'm like, help, it's speaking Chinese. I don't know what I did. But, it's cool because then I can work my way back out of it, sometimes with some help from my patient spouse. But, it's a lot of fun. And the fact that you can do so much with it and change things up, even from your contacts and your phones. And we talk a lot about that in the book too, changing your dialers and, different ways to view your contacts. I mean, you don't have to stick with just one way. You've got all these various things that you can do, whether it be changing a launcher or getting an app or whatever that is. And I think that's one of the things that makes Android so terrific.
Oh, yeah, I've had fun changing the launchers. Like, I've done that a few times, but I've settled on one that I like at the minute, so I haven't changed it, because I tried a few and then something annoyed us about a couple of them, and I can't remember what now. So but the one I like at the minute.
I have always said that, Android customization, or the way to do things in Android, is so much like Windows. If you're familiar with Windows, there's not just one way of doing one thing. You may have 2 or 3 or even 4 different ways of doing a particular single item. So I really like that about Android, and that's why I so much love the platform. That ability to do things in a different way. If you feel this other way is not cutting it for you, then do it the other way.
I agree 100%. Sometimes if I've forgotten one of those multi-finger gestures, I'm like, oh, what was the old way of doing this? Oh, yeah, okay. You've got all these different options and they all work. So you've got different ways, as you say.
And Chris, what's your daily driver? I don't think you've answered.
Yeah, I do switch. I went from as far as Android, the A32 is no more. I sold it and I got an A52. And I did that because I bought
the thing on your wrist.
Yes. I bought the Samsung Classic 4 watch. And the A32 that I found on eBay was an international thing. And for whatever reason, it did not like the watch. Like, for example, if I cleared the notifications, they'd come back. And it was the weirdest thing. So I ditched that phone. I got a 52 and it's been working just fine. The watch and the phone love each other. So
we actually appreciate you for what you guys have done. And you have been very honest about this book and giving us all the information we need. And most especially to our listeners, if you're listening and you want to immerse yourself in such a book, please, we ask you that you go to that website, which is going to be in our show notes, nbp.org, right? nationalbraillepress.org. And there you can find that book. Now, Chris and Kim, do you have any final comments to say before we move on?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention too, not only did we write the book on Android, we created the audio documentation for Android. So we actually have an acquainting yourself with Android audio documentation that's on our website as well.
Oh yeah, I got that. It was that was pretty helpful, along with the podcast from the Blind Android podcast as well. So because I wanted to get as much as I could.
Awesome.
That's great. Yeah. So if anyone wants to check out that or any of the other goodies that we're doing, you're welcome to visit us anytime. And we've got, as we said, the podcast. We've got tons of downloads that are free. So there's lots of ways to introduce yourselves to us without paying a dime, which is great. We want that because we want you to be able to learn who we are. And you can visit us at mysticaccess.com, mysticaccess.com. Everything available for digital download. So anyone all across the world and in general should be able to download that and utilize it. And of course, if you have any questions prior to making a purchase, or you just want to say hi or what have you, you can contact us via email, or if you're in the States, you're welcome to give us a call. We're in New York on Eastern time, and there's a lot available on the site to check out and learn about. And we, of course, would love to have you come visit and check us out.
Thanks very much. And I think you're going to stay with us for the rest of the podcast, which is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I do want to give you guys a little grief. How come it is that you guys didn't invite the podcast crew of the blind Android users to come attend your wedding?
Oh,
I've kind of been holding it back, and I wanted to kind of, give you a little bit of a grief when we're done with the book.
Well, see, you can come. Well, today's our 10-month anniversary as we're sitting here recording this. So we're
beautiful, exciting. So maybe we could go for a 1-year anniversary or whatever.
We can
but
party.
definitely you got to let the crew come in.
I think there's possibly a minor anachronism, and they didn't know we existed. But
I don't know if we existed at the time. Or we would have loved that.
Exactly.
We did have a large streaming component to our wedding, actually. We had more people attend via the stream than attended in person. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that is good.
Congratulations again, guys.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
And now we turn our attention to Android 13 Beta 3, which is very exciting because it means that Talkback 13 has actually dropped. Unusually, in the first two Android betas, the new version of Talkback to coincide with the operating system did not drop. So it was just Talkback 12.2. But in Android 13 Beta 3, we do have Talkback 13. Warren, do you want to lead us off on this item?
I am really excited with Android 13 Beta 3, and I do want to mention, though, before we get started with Android 13 Beta 3, is that we also this June, so Google has been very busy, and this June also ended the QPR, the quarterly platform releases that Google had earlier on back in February for the Android 12L beta. So it was such a confusing thing because you got two betas running. You have one coming from Android 12L and one for Android 13 and all of that. Well, that one finally comes to a close this June. And so if you were into that QPR or the platform quarterly platform release beta for the Android L that has closed as of this month, and you will be automatically unenrolled within a few weeks. So in order to be able to join Android 13 beta, you must unenroll from your other Android 12 beta. So, but if you don't, like I indicated, you will be automatically unenrolled over the weeks to come. And then there'll be no more Android 12L beta because they're now merged together with Android 13. Now let's talk about Android 13 Beta 3. It's been a very busy week for Google, and it's exciting to see that 2 days after that drop on Wednesday, then yesterday, there was another little huge 6 MB update that came through from Google. For some reason, though, somebody forgot to put that feedback app into the drop that we had on Wednesday, which was the Android 13 Beta 3. And so that came through yesterday. So if you see that, that's what that all is all about. It's nothing much to write home about. But of course, if you're going to be able to give feedback to Google, you'll have to be able to give that feedback through that. So without that app, there will be no way of giving a feedback. So we have that. So if you haven't had it, then you want to make sure that you get that update. Now, let's talk about what is new. In reality, nothing really much is new in Android 13 Beta 3. The most important thing, though, is that this drop is the final API integration. So if you're a developer, for example, and you've been sitting on the fence, this is now the time to join in because there are not going to be any more new APIs introduced into Android 13. As we close in for the final release, there will be one more beta coming up next month, and then thereafter will be the final public release, which I believe may be sometime in August or maybe in September. I think last year was the first time that we didn't see the public release till October, rather, was last year. And all of that was because of the pandemic. Everything now gets blamed on COVID. And by golly, I hope we're soon crossing that bar so that things will start to get back to normal. But so in reality, I don't think that there's any new things that got introduced into Android 13, besides, of course, the Talkback, which we will talk about here in a little bit. But then there are some things like there's an improvement in the copy and pasting, and I'm not relating to us blind people necessarily, but there's been some improvement in that Android 13. And then there's a little thing called the pocket operator, something like that. So the whole idea is to be able to make a video out of nothing, and that is there on the Play Store as well. You know, it's something that you can actually grab from the Play Store. It's not necessarily integrated into that, but it requires Android 13 Beta 3. So that's one of the newest things. And then the search or the home key or the home bar, because that doesn't make sense to a lot of us, those of us who are blind anyway. But if you look at the bottom of your screen where you do that gesture to go home, what a lot of people have likened it to is that it now looks more or less like what we have on Fruitvale. And Fruitvale, of course, I'm referring to iOS. It's now a little bit wider and bigger than what it used to be. So that's another visual change that has come to Android 13 Beta 3. And then, of course, there's some other stabilizations and things like that. We have a page that I'll be including in the show notes, most especially for support for large screens, people with tablets. Amanda, I'm talking about you. I'm looking at you, Amanda. You've got that tablet there.
Yeah.
So this is actually going to be a better experience for you, given the fact that you have a Samsung device. Of course, Samsung is prepping to roll out the beta for it next month. So you probably may want to jump on that and see if you have any better experience on that large tablet that you got. Those are some of the things that are part of that, what is new as of Android 13 beta, because it's just all about stabilization and everything is now fine. And now I'm looking at you, SuperSense, because for quite a while now, I've not been able to run SuperSense on my Android 13 betas. And so hopefully maybe SuperSense would update theirs also to make it compliant, since there are not going to be any more new APIs introduced before the final release. I think those are some of the things that are there that are fundamental for Android 13 Beta 3.
Thanks, Warren. That's because third-party app developers don't support beta versions of software. I think you might have to
Exactly.
wait till it
But
comes out.
we want them to do that because, you got there are a lot of people out there that like to jump onto these beta programs or, previews and things like that. And the whole idea of giving out these previews and betas is intended at developers. And why these developers usually don't jump on that is just beyond me.
Well, they do, but they do it in their own private and public betas. What you're saying is you want end users who are interested enough to try beta software to have release versions of software that work with beta software. I think you might be onto a loser trying to get them to do that. But it's a good try. I would carry on trying. Do you talk about Braille display settings in your highlights and Talkback, or should we talk about Talkback 13 a little bit?
I do have it in my what's new in Talkback from the Talkback highlights, some of those things. And we'll mention some of those things here too, although it's there in my Talkback highlights. But of course, so when we talk about the Android integration or the Talkback 13 integration into Android 13 Beta 3, this is the first time that we're seeing the Android 13 come to Android 13 beta, because in normal circumstances, and this year, as I've indicated in the past episodes, this is the first year wherein, for some unknown reason, Google did not bring Android. I keep saying Android. Google did not bring in Talkback 13 in the first preview. If you look at the previous previews, that is the one that we got back like in February when first preview of Android 13 came through, it did not come with any new Talkback and all of that. So that was so strange, and it lingered until this Beta 3, which just dropped last Wednesday. So it's a different thing. I hope that next year we don't have such a repeat. Google, if you are listening, we need to go back to how it used to be and stop doing these things that, we keep waiting and waiting. No bueno, man.
Chris and Kim, you've obviously got a 3A, I think you said. Do you play around with beta software, or do you wait for stuff to get released and fixed?
He does more of that than I do. He is by far the more adventurous beta person than me. I kind of want my stuff to stay relatively stable, especially if I only have one device in the in the operating system at the time. I'm just like, oh no, you can do that, you can play. But with one of us on the beta, you can usually find out what's going on. But are you on any of the beta right now?
I am not. I have too many betas running right now. So.
He's got a lot of betas going on in his world, so probably not the best idea. He won't know what he's running. So
sounds very sensible. Yeah, you can have too many. You sort of got a corporate beta instability appetite, haven't you? You can't exceed it across devices.
Yes, exactly.
Otherwise, the whole caboodle comes crashing down and nothing ever works.
Yeah, between us, we're usually on 6 or 7 betas at any given time, so it's too much to do.
Yeah, I'm the king of betas.
Risk appetite here.
I got so many betas, and I always jump on that first developer preview, and I've been doing that since Lollipop. That's Android 5.0, so I'm used to those previews.
Oh wow, I've done betas not on Android, but I have done betas of apps. But even on iOS, I've never dared to try a beta of like iOS. So I don't know if I'd do it with Android either. But maybe, I don't know.
You should. You should.
Yeah, maybe. I just don't know how I'd have to find out how you do it and that. But yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and in reality, though, to their credit, I think as of Android 12 or maybe Android 11, the previews that I've had, they actually come out working. And I remember there probably was one app that didn't work for me. Other than that, of late, just about every app works. But like I said, for some reason, SuperSense is the only app that's not working for me, even as of now. So.
Facebook's flaky with Talkback with the beta.
Oh, no.
Like the sad the reaction buttons won't work properly. I think
Ah.
like does, but the other
Aw.
ones won't. They do a little weird cyclical thing, and it makes an odd noise, and it just doesn't do anything. So you have to kind of disable Talkback if you want to do that, or use your other phone that's not running a beta. Just on betas, Amanda, it's significantly easier to enroll your Apple phone into a beta than it is your Android phone. What I would say though is that the Apple phone betas tend to contain way more fatal accessibility flaws, so you might not want to. You might find that something pretty serious doesn't work. I mean, you can find that in any beta.
I think probably with both, I'll just stick to wait until they're out. I think with both Apple and Android.
Yeah, my experience of Android tends to be that I don't know why. Maybe it's just luck, but it seems to have fewer fatal flaws.
Oh, that's good.
Accessibility
work
wise.
well in Android. Yeah.
I do want to mention something here that I observed with the Android 13 Beta 3, and that has to do with the Telegram app. For instance, if you install Android 13 Beta 3 and you're running Telegram, you'd realize that when you tap on items, like maybe on messages in Telegram, whether you're doing a single tap or double tap, it's not going to open those for you. And there's a little workaround. For some odd reason, it has to do with the magnification. So to work around that, you go turn on magnification, and that fixes it. And then you can turn off your magnification, and it works. But then as soon as you restart the phone, the problem returns, and you'll have to do that again. So if you're planning on jumping onto Android 13 Beta 3, that is something to keep in mind, most especially if you use Telegram as one of your messaging apps. But as long as you haven't restarted your phone after you apply that workaround, it will work fine. But the next time you restart your phone and it comes back, you'll have to repeat that. And just I want to make sure that people understand that. But I hope, though, that we get a fix for that in the upcoming beta, or maybe the guys from Talkback will find a fix for that. But that's what it is with Android 13 and Android Accessibility 13.0.
Let's just touch on Braille as well. So Warren's going to mention it in highlights from Talkback. It is now integrated, which is probably a good thing, into Talkback. You can assign a gesture to access the Braille display settings, which is quite helpful. That is in the list of commands or functions to which a gesture can be assigned. Annoyingly, hide screen still isn't, and I've no idea why. Whatever. What I will say,
they need to have that. We need to have that.
I don't understand why it isn't.
And because
why not?
It's an easier way to do that. That would be, I think it's something that kind of just got overlooked. But I'm glad we no longer have to use Braille back, to access our Braille displays. So that's a beautiful thing.
It is. The other thing they fixed is a natural language change. So turning off speech in Talkback was misleadingly called turn off sounds or something like that. They fixed that in Talkback 13. It is now more straightforwardly turn speech on or off. What Google confirmed either last week or the week before in respect to Braille support, somewhat disappointingly, but I think either APH or Human Word already confirmed it anyway, was that the human interface driver standard is not initially going to be supported on the release of Android 13. So that is essentially the standard that the Braille display manufacturers and the operating system manufacturers, including Google, actually produced and committed to, so that Braille displays would be plug and play, quote unquote. It's Bluetooth, so we're not plugging anything. But it stops those silly drivers you used to have to install from Handy Tech or Help Tech now, aren't they? BAM or wherever. To make your screen reader work, but Google, in its wisdom, has decided they're not going to support this under Android 13, which Warren doesn't seem to think is a problem. But never mind, being a minority of one.
Well, here's my take on it, though, and let's be fair. My take on it is that, in reality, how many Braille displays out there have heat support? That's the question number one. Number two, if we introduce this too soon, then you're kind of leaving some people out in the cold. And, Braille devices, let's be honest, are not cheap. You're buying something for $6,000, $3,000, and then all of a sudden you're not able to use it because of whatever. I think that's not a good thing. And just to do that on the ground that a couple companies or whatever manufacturers have implemented, that I think I'll rather fault on the side of the many that still use the old stuff.
But you're not displacing the old stuff. It's just supporting the new stuff as well. HumanWare use it. And this standard's not new. This standard's been around a long time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, though, there's only maybe a couple of them that you can count on one hand, maybe HumanWare and who else, that has that heat support, and the others don't. So what do?
You can
So does that mean the Brilliant won't work with it?
Yes,
it does.
The new one.
The Brilliant will work with Android.
Won't.
Depends on which Brilliant.
Will not.
Yeah.
Some of them do. Some of
BI20X.
them work with it.
The 14
BI20X
probably
will not work.
Yeah, it's a BI20. Yeah, I've got a Focus 14, and the where the Freedom Scientific one or whatever it is, and that worked with Braille back on thingy, and I don't think the Brilliant worked with the version of Android now, because I tried connecting it and nothing happened. So I assumed it didn't work, but the Focus bit, I got the Focus 14 to work, so that's quite cool.
Yeah, that'll work. Kimmy, you were going to come in, I think.
Yeah. Just saying, that's the issue when you've got the nice new devices. I've got the new Brilliant BI40, or relatively new, And,
I'd love to use the Brilliant with them.
Yeah, it's just it's a 40 cell display, but I also understand the piece about the old devices, because I've got some of those as well. So it's like, well, what do you do? I mean, I just hope it's one way or another that we can get it resolved relatively quickly for the new people as well as the old people.
I hope so, but it's not one or the other. It's not like everyone's old devices will be deprecated.
Right.
And I think probably the best solution would be to have maybe the heat, and then you also have something like a legacy whatever devices. I don't know how doable that is, but frankly, I think that may be the only way to go about it, because I don't want to, go out and buy a new device when my old device works perfectly. So
how doable it is? It's what Mac OS, Windows, and iOS have all done. So pretty doable in the scale of doability, I would say. They all work. Not complicated. Google just won't do it. And now we have Warren's highlights from Talkback.
We continue now with our theme of highlights from Talkback. This is installment 39. In our last installment 38, we saw the second item under the heading of the 3-finger gestures, and that was the screen search. Today, however, since we're discussing the subject matter of Android 13 Beta 3, I thought that it would be appropriate that we discuss the new Talkback that comes bundled with Android 13 Beta 3. And therefore, today I will not be showing you a gesture, but instead will try to highlight some of the important items that I found in the new Talkback 13.0. I will be demonstrating this using my Pixel 6 Pro and utilizing the Google Speech Services as my chosen TTS. I am on the home screen now, and there's something that I want us to start with, and that is the fact that if I touch an icon, for example,
Folder, navigation, 4 or more items. Tap to activate. Actions available. Use tap with 3 fingers to view.
The new thing that we have here is the fact that it tells us that if you want to do actions, or in other words, if you want to see the actions for this particular item or for any icon that is highlighted for that matter, you could simply tap with 3 fingers. And what that means is that when you tap with 3 fingers, then it will place you on the actions. So in other words, the bug that we had in Android Accessibility 12.2, whereupon whenever you tap on an icon that is highlighted, whether you tap with 3 fingers or use a gesture that you assign to actions, instead of it saying Talkback and placing you on the actions icon, it will first say Android Accessibility Suite followed by Talkback. Now that too has been fixed. So now I'll tap with 3 fingers and you will see what I'm talking about. Here I go.
Talkback menu. Actions in list. Tap to activate.
So instead of hearing Android Accessibility followed by Talkback, and then you have to swipe right to get to the actions, we tap with 3 fingers and we're immediately placed on the actions. This is how it used to be in Talkback 12.1 or Android Accessibility 12.1. Now I'll navigate my way to the settings area and see some of the things that have been brought to us in this Android Accessibility 13.0.
Talkback settings. Tap to activate.
Here is Talkback settings. I'm going to tap here to activate.
Talkback settings. Navigate up, button, out of list. Tap to activate.
I am in the Talkback settings, and as you can hear, I'm leaving things in their default, and that's why you're hearing the little pause and then tap to activate. Normally, in normal circumstances, I would have changed this to my preferred mode of doing things, but I'm leaving things at their defaults so that you can follow me here because everyone can customize as to how they want theirs to be. The first thing I would like to talk about here is the Braille display support. This is something that was announced during the Google I/O back in May. Finally, this is here if you are running Android 13 Beta 3, and so I'll first look at that integration and see how it goes about connecting with your Braille display. I do have an old U2 from HIMS and will use that in demonstrating this feature. I'll now scroll my way down, find and tap on Braille Display.
Braille display. Tap to activate.
Here is an item saying Braille Display. I, however, do want to mention here in passing that you want to make sure that your Bluetooth has been turned on. Mine has been turned on, and so now I'll simply tap here on Braille Display.
Braille display. Navigate up, button, out of list. Tap to activate.
Putting my finger down some 2 inches from the top, I hear
Use Braille display. Tap to activate.
Use Braille Display. Tap to activate. And then to the right of that is an on-off switch. By default, it is off.
Off, switch. Tap.
So I'm going to tap on this to activate that.
On.
It says
One device
on,
found.
and I am told 1 device found. I'll move my finger down and see what's going on.
Braille's Ensue 2141 available. Tap to activate.
There is my Braille U2 right here. So if I'm going to pair it with this device, all I need to do here now is simply tap here.
Android Accessibility Suite. Braille's Ensue 2141 out of list.
I'll put my finger down again.
Connect button. Tap to
And
activate.
There's a connect. I'll tap here to connect.
Braille display. Braille's Ensue 2141. Edit box. Out of list. Settings. Tap and hold to long press. Labels. Actions of.
Now we are being asked to type in the pairing code. In other words, sometimes most of them are 0000, or sometimes it's 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on the Braille device in question. However, for this one though, it's 0, 0, 0, 0, 4 zeros.
Not checked. Pin contains letter. Can't communicate with Braille's Ensue 2141.
As you can hear, I am told that it cannot connect because I waited too long. By default, I think it's like 30 seconds. And if you wait past that, then you'll have to tap on it again to connect. So this time I'm going to tap on it again. And this time I'll put in 4 zeros.
Braille's Ensue 2141 available.
I'll
Tap to activate. Android Accessibility Suite.
And now I'll tap on connect.
Connect button. Braille display. Edit.
And now
Showing number keyboard.
I'll put 4 zeros.
0, windowed 0. 0. 0. 0.
And now I'll tap connect.
OK button. Window settings.
Okay, rather.
Tap to activate. Keyboard hidden. Braille display. Navigate.
I tapped on OK and I heard a sound that indicated that I've been connected. And now I'm going to navigate to my Braille terminal to be sure that I indeed am connected. So here I go. I'm going to go into my Braille display terminal here. And there indeed, I am connected. I'll hit one of the advancement cursors on my Braille device. Down.
Use Braille display in list. Tap
And
to
it
activate.
says use Braille display, and that shows on my Braille display. That is how you go about connecting your Braille display. And let's look at some of the items that I found here. In other words, if you want to further customize, we have
Braille's Ensue 2141 active. Tap to activate.
that is active.
Look for new device. Tap to
Or you
activate.
could look for a new device.
Languages and commands heading.
Languages and commands. This is something that's important if you're going to take advantage of what your Braille device has in terms of capabilities.
Languages, Unified English Braille uncontracted, Unified English Braille contracted.
You
Tap
could
to
tap
activate.
here to change how you want it to be.
Preferred reading language, Unified English Braille uncontracted. Tap to
You
activate.
could change that.
Preferred typing language, Unified English Braille contracted. Tap to activate. Braille commands, learn key commands for your Braille display. Tap to activate.
And here you could tap here to see what the commands are for your Braille display. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just to give you a little taste of what it is. I tap here.
Braille commands. Navigate up, button, out of.
And I'll put my finger down.
Use navigation keys to move the focus on the screen. Use the Braille keys to enter text in a text box. Below are all the commands supported by your device.
Okay, so these are based on your particular model, so your commands may differ from what mine has.
Pan up, right scroll down, in list. Pan up, right scroll up. Next item, dots 4, 5, 8. Previous item, dots 1, 2, 7.
So in other words, we're talking about, and your dot 8 would be the enter key in my case, and then the backspace is the dot 7.
Next line, F3.
And of course, yours may not have that, but the U2 has F1, F2, F3, and all of that.
Previous line, F2. Next word, space plus dot 5.
Space plus dot 5 for moving through words.
Previous word, space plus dot 2.
You get the drift. I'll go back now and continue on some of the other items that we saw here in the Talkback 13.0.
Braille display. Braille commands,
I'll go
learn key
back
command.
again.
Talkback settings. Braille display, in list. Tap.
I am back to the Talkback settings. Now let's look at another item that has been brought to us here. And that would be the automatic image description, or rather, the automatic labeling of icons. Yes, indeed, in previous versions, we had something that talked about labeling unlabeled IDs and things like that. I'll now navigate to the item that I'm talking about that has to do with labeling of things that are not labeled. Most especially, sometimes developers will not label things right or forget to put labels in them, and you don't have a way to do that, most especially when it says it cannot be labeled and all of that, because there's no internal labeling for it to find something to label. And I'm hoping that this is what fixes that. I'll now touch on that item so we can go from here.
Cover proximity.
So just below the cover proximity is the item that I'm talking about. And this is the item that says,
Automatically describe icons. Hear descriptions when you focus on an unlabeled icon. Off switch.
And it
Tap
has
to
an
activate.
on-off switch, and by default, it is off. If I tap here,
Android Accessibility Suite. Download required to describe icons. Out of list.
we are told that download is required, and it's 50 MB in size.
50 megabytes.
And below that, we hear some information about the feature.
You will automatically hear descriptions when you focus on an unlabeled icon.
Now below that, to the left is Not Now, and to the right is Download.
Not now button.
And
Tap
to
to
the right
activate.
of that,
Download button. Tap to activate.
now, I do want to mention here in passing, however, that when you tap on download, it will start to download, but then it times out, and therefore that button or that switch is still unchecked. Here's what I'm talking about.
Talkback settings. Automatically describe icons. Hear descriptions when you focus on an unlabeled icon. Off switch in list.
And you'll
Tap to
just
activate.
loop through this again and again. So I'm hoping that with the next update, which would be the last beta for Android 13 beta, which is coming up next month, maybe this item would be fixed, or before the final release, we will get a fix for this. And of course, we'll be happy campers. The next item I want to talk about is found in the Advanced. And therefore, I'm going to scroll toward the bottom and go tap on Advanced.
Advanced settings. Tap to activate.
Here is our Advanced settings. I'll tap here.
Advanced settings. Out of list.
The item that I want to talk about is found under the typing heading. In other words, is found within the typing headings. So we hear things like
Typing and keyboard. Heading in list. Typing preference. Hold finger to select any key, then lift. Tap to
and
activate.
then below that is the item that I'm talking about, and this is
Touch and hold delay when typing. 3 seconds default. Tap to activate.
touch and hold delay during typing. The default is 3 seconds. However, if you don't want it to be 3 seconds, which is a default, then you could tap here to choose what you would rather have as your default. I will tap here so we'll see the different options that we have besides the 3 seconds, which is the default.
Android Accessibility Suite. Touch and hold delay when typing. Out of list.
I'll put my finger down and go through this.
Touch and hold delay when typing. Out of list.
We hear touch and hold delay during typing, and here are your options. We've got
0.5 seconds in list. Tap to select.
0.5 seconds,
1 second.
1 second,
2 seconds.
2 seconds,
Checked. 3 seconds default.
3 seconds default, and that's the one that's checked by default. And the last one here is
5 seconds. Tap to
5
select.
seconds. So you can choose which one you prefer. I think for me though, I probably could leave mine on 1 second or maybe 0.5, but I think I probably put it on 1 second.
2 seconds. 1 second.
There we
Tap
go.
to select. Talkback settings. Touch and hold delay when typing. 1 second in list.
Now that has become my default. And those are some of the most important items that I wanted to touch on today. Of course, there are some more features, but due to time constraints and all of that, I thought that it was good that we highlight some of these.
And finally, for this week's episode, it's a return, happily, to the My Android Journey segment. And I'm delighted to say she's spoken already. We are joined by Amanda Hall from the UK. Welcome again, Amanda.
Oh, thanks.
No worries. Warren, do you want to lead us on this? I know this is, well, it's everyone's favourite segment, I think. But Warren, do you want to take this one away?
This is my most favorite part of the podcast or the episode. And, we don't have them often. And whenever we do, I am like a kid in a Christmas candy store. And so I'm excited, Amanda. Thank you so much when I reached out to you to see if you could come out and do your Android journeys.
Oh,
I
no
wasn't
problem.
sure that you were going to come or not, 'cause I'm like, yeah, I hope she accepts. And there you are, accepting to come. And of course, Amanda, you are on our Telegram group. That's how I was able to
Yeah,
reach out
that
to
was
you.
it. Yeah, I was on the Telegram group. Yeah, which was cool.
So, Amanda, take us to your Android journey story. I know you just started not too long ago with that Samsung tablet that we talked about a little while ago. Take us through the journey of your Android.
Well, it was really just a couple of months ago. It was like April, and it was I just one day randomly decided I felt like trying Android. Well, I'd thought about, like, I'd wondered in the past sort of vaguely what Android was like, but then I don't think I'd ever been anywhere where I got like where I could have a go of an Android phone or tablet. So I thought, well, the only way I'm going to do it is if I just buy one myself. So I bought an Android tablet, and I got it on the Easter weekend. And I'd listened to like a few of, so before I got it, I listened to sort of bits of the podcasts that you have done, and I sort of Googled the basics, because it came up, if you type it into Google, it comes up with the gestures, and I'd got the Mystic Access ones as well, so that I could remember a bit before I started. And I thought I'd be able to do it, but I thought it was actually, there is a lot you can do with it, but I thought it was going to be a bit more tricky than it actually was. But it was I didn't really find it any harder than I did with iOS to get used to like the basics and that. And then I got it obviously talking easily enough. For some reason, it took like when I got my tablet, it took like 3 goes. I don't know if I didn't leave it long enough before I restarted. I thought I had, because I seemed to wait ages just in case. But on the 3rd go of doing the volumes, it eventually came up. And yeah, it was easy to set it up. And that I just remember when it came up with the language, when you went to set up like to choose UK or British for the language, for some reason when I double tapped, it didn't actually say that language was selected. So I remember thinking when I went to the next bit, I hope it works and doesn't speak in some other random language. But luckily it worked all right. And yeah, so I got it, and then I just sort of figured out how to use it by listening to these podcasts on the Blind Android podcast and some of the Mystic Access ones, and then I just messed about a bit myself. And basically what I did is I downloaded some of the apps that I use on my iPhone to see what the Android versions were like, and a lot of them seem to be like quite similar, really. Like I tried things like Amazon and eBay, and they just seem as similar and as easy as the iOS versions. And then I got Facebook, which is kind of mostly the same, apart from it has that extra action buttons, which makes it a little bit slower, and it seems a bit more sluggish with Talkback for some reason, but it works all right. And I can read everything all right on it. And I've tried a few launchers as well. I tried like the one that it came with was fine, and then I tried I think the Action one launcher, and I tried there was something else I've forgotten now, but now I've got it on the Microsoft launcher, and I like that one the best. And I've also moved some things around and added things to my home screen, and I've put a few things in folders, and I've been messing about with a few, because like I've have a few widgets on iOS, so I thought, I'll try some of the Android ones. So I added a widget for, like, because I've got Hive for me heating, I added a Hive widget to my home screen so I can see the inside temperature directly, and I added the BBC weather one and that, and yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it.
So Amanda, it's interesting that you got this during the Easter weekend, and so it's more like a resurrection for you, right?
I never thought of that. That's quite funny.
It's absolutely such a beautiful coincidence, to say the least.
I never thought of
You got
that.
it on a resurrection. Amanda resurrected from the platform to a different platform.
Well, no, because obviously I'm still using my iPhone as my main phone, and whether I would change, I don't know. But even if I didn't and decided to keep using an iPhone as my main phone, I really like Android just about as much. So I would probably now, even if I didn't ever change, always keep an Android device around because it's really fun and I'm enjoying it.
And it's a good way to, try it, most especially if you're going the route of the tablet, because, you're not using a phone that requires a SIM card. And maybe this is basically the Wi-Fi model. And so you're basically trying and see if Android is for you or not. And that is absolutely a wise way to go about it. Or like I've always said, one should always get a phone that is a cheap phone, and then don't even bother about putting any SIM card in there. Just play with it and see if this is something you would like. But it sounds like you're having a good experience. Other than that language thing that you were kind of a little bit almost getting stuck on, were there any other aspects, or were there other issues that you have, or any problems that you ran into? In other words, were you frustrated in any way that you felt like you want to throw this thing out of the window? Because a lot of times when someone comes on to Android for the first time, of course, gestures are not the same and all of that. So that familiarity is not there, and it can be a little bit frustrating, isn't it?
Well, maybe a bit, but I thought it would have been a bit more frustrating. Really, I found it was obviously some of the gestures are different, but I found it I thought like the setup, I thought I was going to find things like a bit more tricky, but it was actually easier than I thought. But I made sure, though, even though I'd read up on some of the basics, I did go through the tutorial on the setup just to make sure I knew exactly what I was doing. So I went through that I typed in my Wi-Fi password, and I managed to do that FaceTime. For some reason, mine was set on the because I heard some of the Android phones and that are automatically set on where you lift your finger to type, kind of the same way, which is how I like it on my iPhone as well. But for some reason, mine wasn't, which wasn't a problem because it was on the stand. Well, what you call the standard typing on iOS, but the one where you have to double tap each letter, so it wasn't set on the but then again, iOS is when you set that up. So I thought, oh well. So I just double tapped each letter, and I got my Wi-Fi password in FaceTime. So nothing's frustrated as too much of. Well, actually, apart from there was one mistake I made a week after getting it, where I downloaded the a cappella and the vocalizer voices, and I bought, I think it was one of the a cappella voices, but I had the download for the vocalizer, but I hadn't bought any of the voices within the program. So I thought, I'll change to one of them. But unfortunately, I selected the wrong one and got a bit confused. So I selected the vocalizer, which I hadn't installed any of the voices for. So obviously it was doing the clicking sounds, and I had no voice. I thought, I'm going to have to get someone to help. So I had to. I got my mum to help, because obviously she can see the screen because I'd gone on. But then I didn't know at the time I didn't have settings on my home screen, and I knew how to get to it, but with the speech turned off, I didn't know how to get a sighted person to get to it. So in the end, I thought I might have to try and see if someone else could figure it out. But in the end, what I ended up having to do, because I'd gone back to my home screen, was because obviously I had Talkback but no turn Talkback on, but so I had it with like no voice, but the sounds. So I did the 3 fingers to get to the Talkback menu, and like I scanned it with seeing AI on the iPhone, and and a little bit of guessing, and somehow managed to get to me text to speech and get it back on. I've got it onto the Google one, so that was a bit annoying. And another thing that doesn't
that is some serious problem solving right there.
It was an interesting way of solving it, but it somehow worked. I sort of had to guess a little bit. But one other annoying thing is that I can't get any of the. I mean, like I said before, I managed to get Braille to connect me Focus 14 to it, but none of the internal Braille screen input stuff works on mine for some reason. I don't understand why not, because I can do multi-finger gestures. But if I try and if I thought, because Braille screen input is something I really love on the iPhone, so I was really looking forward to trying it on Android. But when I tried to change to it, what it said was it said unable to change to the keyboard. It said it could not support enough simultaneous key presses or something.
Yeah, that's right.
That is odd, though.
A lot of touchscreens do that. They won't all support the requisite number of fingers on the screen at the same time. I don't know where Android sets its limit. iOS doesn't support 6 anyway, which is quite funny. So if you want to do an FOR sign, you have to lift up one finger and replace it. Some Android phones.
That doesn't matter if because I've if the only thing it's only a minor inconvenience having to basically what I mean people have ways around it of managing to do the 4 sound by quickly doing one then the other. So I basically just type FOR out. I've just got used
That's
to
what
it.
I used to do until I knew about it.
I couldn't care if it supported 5 fingers and I had to type out FOR, but I think it only. But like I thought it probably wouldn't work, but I thought I'll see what the advanced Braille keyboard does, and that doesn't tell you that it doesn't work. It lets you go into it and everything, but from pressing keys down, I realised it. I think it only supports about 4 fingers, because if I try and do any more than 4 fingers, it'll only recognize it'll only recognize 4 of them.
That is strange.
It's
and
not
that's the
a lot of
Samsung
touch
tablet.
screens don't support many multi-touch. Like a lot of the some of the unbranded phones don't do it, but they won't support that many. I'm surprised the tablet doesn't. I don't know why the tablet.
I thought she has a Samsung tablet, though.
I do, yeah. It's a Samsung A8.
Yeah. So that's. I mean, the A8 is one of the newest tablets out there from Samsung, and I'm surprised
like last year or something,
that you're not getting that, because that's kind of odd.
And I wish I'd kind of researched. I mean, apart from that, the tablet's really good. But in a way, I wish I'd researched, and if I'd known about it, I would have purposely bought one that does, because that's something I really wanted to try. Either that, or I would have bought like a cheaper Android phone that did it, if there is a cheap Android phone that does Braille. But do the phones, like, I'm assuming the ones like the Pixels and stuff, they'll do it, won't they?
They do.
will.
I will type, all the 6 dots on my Pixel phone, in the Braille virtual keyboard, no problems whatsoever. And actually, I even did that on a Galaxy S8. It works.
So the Samsung phones do it as well?
Yeah.
Oh, well, strange, but yeah, that's the only annoying thing, because that is something. Because if I ever did get an Android phone, I would have liked to have known what Braille screen input, how good it was before I tried it on a phone. But yeah, that's the only annoying thing. But apart from that, it's good. I'm loving the tablet. It's fun trying the different things on Android, especially the different launchers, and trying all the different apps and just messing about in that, and the Google Assistant on there.
Yeah, so I had never been able to use the virtual Braille keyboard. We have several of those until the Talkback virtual keyboard. And now with that, I'm able to do it, and especially using it in that table mode, which is my preferred method. And I tell you, I can type on that thing just as good as I'm doing it on a Perkins Braille. So I'm excited about it. I like it, and I don't have to use my Braille display when I'm doing Braille input on my phone. So It's
Yeah,
a good thing.
that's why I wanted to use it, because I thought, well, I can type on the on-screen keyboard on the thing, or I can use dictation, but I don't know, I like to be able to, and like I think if I had an Android phone, I would probably try it on away mode, because I like using it on a obviously on a tablet you'd need to be tabletop, but on a phone, if I had the phone, I would do it away, because I use mine on away mode on the iPhone, because I like to kind of hold the phone, but yeah, it's cool how you can do both on Android
I
as
use
well.
away mode.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah, I don't like the away mode.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda. Such a beautiful story. And,
Oh, no
you
problem.
guys, if you're listening out there, don't be afraid. See, Amanda, did you have any doubts about coming on? Were you nervous? I don't think you are. You're very confident. And we just ask that, people come on and talk about the
Oh,
Android
no,
journey stories.
it's good fun. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
And of course, if you don't feel like it, you can always record those stories and send it to us. You don't have to come on live, even though we prefer the live
Oh,
one.
it's more fun coming on.
Yes,
That's why I
it's
said,
more
oh, I
fun.
want to come on. I wanted to come on live. It sounds more fun than just recording it.
Exactly. Then you get to be part of the podcast crew for that day, and it's exciting. It's exciting to see you come on and doing this with us.
It's been
Thank you so
brilliant.
much.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
great stuff. Thanks, Amanda, and thanks, Kim and Chris, for being so generous with your time as well. Thanks for sticking with us for the hour and a half.
Oh, it was a
You're
blast.
very
Thanks for
welcome.
having
It was
us.
fun.
Brilliant, good stuff. And I'm going to let Austin, even though he's not here, tell us how people can find us and get in touch.
For people to locate us, they can email us with their questions or feedback or comments or recording submissions to contact us at blindandroidusers.com. They can browse our website, blindandroidusers.com. Check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/blindandroidusers. Subscribe to our mailing list, Blind Android Users, plus subscribe at groups.io. The links for Telegram and Twitter, Clubhouse will be in the show notes with all the other links. So that is it from us this week.
We will see you all next week. Thanks very much for listening to us. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another clip from the Blind Android Users channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you're notified of every new material that we upload. Thanks again for listening to the Blind Android Users channel.